Hello everyone! Lately, while catching up on the news, I've been hearing a lot about the idea of phone bat, specifically on social media platforms. It's not hard to come across videos of young people showing off that they've bought luxury cars, designer goods, even expensive apartments at a very young age. Of course, on the surface, that looks like a dream life to many people. But when you look deeper, it's not so certain. At that age, earning even a lot of money is already impressive. And today's story is one example of that. A young couple in Sydney, with declared annual income of only a few tens of thousands of dollars, left people stunned with an unbelievable lavish lifestyle. They rented a high-end penthouse, collected supercars, and owned countless pricey designer items. But behind all that glamour was a shocking secret, one that left many people shaking their heads in disbelief when the truth came out. The case only truly unraveled when authorities accidentally picked up on a lead, which then launched an investigation that exposed one of the largest financial fraud rings in Australian history. So what exactly was their scam? Was there a massive loophole in the financial system, or was there some hidden force manipulating things behind the scenes? Right now, Vietnamese Case Files will take you inside a criminal plan packed with sophisticated tricks, one that even exploited spiritual beliefs. If today's story keeps you watching until the very end, please hit like and share the video so more people can learn about it. And don't forget to subscribe to Vietnamese Case Files to keep exploring more gripping cases. One more note, in this video, we'll temporarily refer to some foreign names using Vietnamese-style pronunciations. For easy cross-checking, the original names will be displayed on screen alongside. In early 2024, a finance company specializing in loans for luxury cars suddenly noticed unusual signs in multiple credit transactions. Specifically, several high-value loans were approved to purchase supercars, yet the customers could not produce any registration documents. Even more suspicious, car dealerships confirmed that no vehicles had ever been sold or registered under those contracts. As a result, many payments became overdue, but the company couldn't repossess any collateral simply because the secured vehicles had never existed in the first place. Suspecting they were facing a new type of fraud, the company immediately reported the matter to financial crime police. At the same time, several individuals came forward saying their personal information had been stolen and that unfamiliar debts had suddenly appeared on their credit reports. These leads were still scattered, but they were enough for the New South Wales Police Financial Crime Task Force to open an investigation in January 2024. In the early stage, investigators tracked down the names that appeared in the documents. They discovered that many people had absolutely no idea their names were being used to borrow enormous sums of money. Others had identities that were cleverly spliced together, real information from one person combined with another person's address, creating a flawless fake profile that could slip past the bank's verification process. That meant, in this large-scale fraud, the victims weren't just isolated individuals, they included the financial system itself, along with many innocent members of the public. First, at least 4 major banks were tricked into issuing huge loans. These banks suffered losses of hundreds of millions of dollars due to bad debts that had no realistic chance of recovery. Fortunately, customer deposits were not directly affected, but the financial burden fell entirely on the banks, forcing them to try to recover losses through seized assets. At the same time, there was another group of victims, individuals whose identities were stolen or exploited. Dozens of people suddenly found themselves saddled with bad debts out of nowhere simply because their personal information had been used to open loan accounts. The criminals took full advantage of gaps in data security, turning these people into indirect victims of a sophisticated fraud. Faced with such massive losses, police were determined to identify the mastermind behind this criminal network. From the very early stages of the investigation, police concluded this was not a series of small, isolated scams, but a large-scale organization operating with a highly systematic method. Their scheme was repeated with professional consistency, using fake identity profiles to take out loans to buy cars. Authorities categorized the suspicious loans by value, timing, and the receiving bank. The results showed a shared pattern: large loans for luxury vehicles through auto finance companies, followed by an immediate stop in repayments right after the first disbursement. Looking deeper, investigators found that different loans reused overlapping pieces of personal information. This was clear evidence of a network that shared a pool of fraudulent identity data to carry out crimes. The investigation then expanded on multiple fronts. one team of specialists was tasked with reviewing suspicious transactions using special access powers. As a result, police uncovered as many as 91 bank accounts linked to circular money transfers designed to disguise illegal origins, with total money flow reaching 178 million AUD. Based on these findings, investigators assessed this as a Ponzi-style money laundering model. In other words, newly obtained fraud money was used to temporarily service older debts to delay detection, while most of the remaining funds flowed into the mastermind's pocket and were shared among accomplices. Using investigative techniques, the specialist team identified the final destination accounts, where the money stopped and was converted into high-value assets, such as real estate, vehicles, and luxury goods. By persistently following the money trail, police found a crucial lead in a lease contract for a penthouse at Crown Towers, Barangaroo. The document showed the luxury apartment was being rented for as much as 37,000 AUD, a figure that would make anyone wonder what the tenant did for a living to afford it. When cross-checking with immigration and tax data, investigators were stunned. The person listed on the lease was Bing Li, around 38 years old, a Chinese national. What made it even more striking was that he declared himself self-employed with insignificant income. Yet he had spent nearly 400,000 AUD just on rent for that penthouse over the past year. Bing Li immediately became a person of interest, and police began building his profile. Digging into his background, they found Bing Li was born in China and had been living in Australia for many years. Always by his side was his girlfriend, Zhou Yao Chen. Over the 5-year period from 2018 to 2023, Bing Li and Zhou Yao Chen reported a combined total income of only about 150,000 AUD. On average, that meant each earned less than 15,000 AUD per year, an amount even lower than many entry-level jobs. Yet during that same period, the couple owned, or indirectly held, an enormous asset portfolio including real estate and luxury cars worth tens of millions of dollars. This unbelievable contrast convinced investigators they had identified the #1 suspect in the case. The urgent task now was to expose the methods the group used to deceive the financial system. By late 2024, police traced another major money laundering lead, Beauty Pavilion, a beauty salon in Bondi managed by an Indonesian man named Ibnu Pratama. Through surveillance, authorities noticed funds from ghost accounts flowing into this business at a high frequency, and they also confirmed the owner had ties to Bing Li. In December 2024, just as police executed a search warrant at a business associate's home, Ibnu Pratama quickly fled back to Indonesia. Although investigators lost a key suspect, this escape also revealed another link in the chain. That link was that Pratama had recruited his own parents, Mr. Nurkianto and Mrs. Carliana, into the real estate laundering operation led by Bing Li. This Indonesian couple were simply a taxi driver and a factory worker, with a declared taxable income in 2024 of only around 60,000 AUD. Yet the illogical part was that they were listed as the owners of a Sydney real estate portfolio valued at up to 15 million AUD. According to the investigation, Bing Li paid them 200,000 AUD to act as nominees for purchasing multiple luxury apartments using fraudulent mortgage applications. This detail helped police better understand Bing Li's playbook. He specialized in recruiting people with low incomes and limited understanding, then paying them to front massive borrowing schemes under their names. From the statements and evidence collected, investigators realized they were dealing with a far more sophisticated criminal organization than initially believed. The media nicknamed them the Penthouse Gang because their main base of operations was a luxury apartment in the Crown Building. At the center was Bing Li, 38, as the top leader, with his key lieutenant Yizhe, he 34, alongside his girlfriend Zhou Yao Chen and dozens of other accomplices. By late July 2025, the net tightening operation was officially launched. On the morning of July 30th, at the penthouse, police suddenly breached the door and pinned down Bing Li while he was still asleep, leaving him no chance to resist. As they thoroughly searched the apartment, investigators were stunned by the sheer level of luxury. On display shelves were rows of Rolex and Hublot watches, thick stacks of cash in various foreign currencies, gleaming Louis Vuitton bags, and down in the parking garage, a polished Bentley parked next to a jet black Ferrari 360 sports car. According to the tally, the total value of the luxury assets frozen reached 38 million AUD. Around the same time, Yizhe was arrested at another location. Zhou Yao Chen was caught in a raid a few days later while trying to hide in another apartment in Sydney. In August 2025, it was the Nurkianto couple's turn to be arrested. During deeper questioning, police were shocked by their confession. They said they had secured huge loans without ever meeting any bank, staff, or brokers, and they had never even visited the apartments they were listed as buying. Everything was arranged by Bing Li's people, from forging documents to bypass the system to coordinating with insiders to get the applications approved. This was powerful proof that the fraud ring had embedded people deep inside banking and brokerage channels to carry out the crimes. With the insider angle emerging, police immediately shifted their focus to National Australia Bank, where they found numerous suspicious business and home loans. After close coordination with the bank's internal investigations unit, the accomplice was quickly identified. He was Timotheus Sunkar, 36, a corporate banking relationship manager at the Bankstown branch. Sunkar exploited his authority to the fullest. He was willing to greenlight a series of business and home loan applications showing signs of fabrication, with a total value of up to around 10 million AUD. In return for that flexibility, Sunkar received generous kickbacks from Bing Li's group through relatives' intermediary accounts, designed to conceal the trail. With sufficient evidence in hand, in the early hours of November 7, 2025, police suddenly raided a house in the suburb of Bonnyrigg and arrested Sunkar. At the scene, authorities seized around 60,000 AUD in cash, along with multiple luxury brand watches and jewelry. This insider planting tactic explained how the fraud ring could so easily slip past strict screening systems because they had someone on the inside to push applications through and ignore every risk warning. Sunkar's arrest was seen as a major turning point, confirming that this criminal organization's reach had penetrated to the core of financial institutions. Just when it seemed the case would end with the ringleaders in custody, police uncovered another fraud branch while expanding the investigation, one that targeted the Vietnamese community in Sydney directly. By persistently tracking money flows from Bing Li's accounts, investigators noticed part of the funds was funneled through casinos and ended up in the hands of a Vietnamese woman named Anya Phan. It turned out Anya and her daughter were closely collaborating with Bing Li's group, or operating under this network. She portrayed herself as a feng shui master and psychic, then exploited spiritual beliefs to lure dozens of Vietnamese people into taking out loans for her to steal. They believed her empty promises that, by doing so, they would meet benefactors and become billionaires in the future. For every loan application that was successfully approved, she brazenly skimmed up to 150,000 AUD for herself. The remaining funds were funneled into laundering channels, such as converting cash into casino chips, purchasing properties under her daughter's name, or buying gold bars and hiding them away. This spiritual scam branch stole nearly 70 million AUD from trusting victims and was considered a shocking new component of the broader case. In November 2025, police raided Anya Phan's home in Dover Heights. There, they seized numerous luxury handbags, 40-gram gold bars, and large quantities of casino chips, while also freezing an additional 15 million AUD in related assets. Soon after, Anya was charged with 39 counts. Her daughter was also charged but was reportedly granted bail pending trial. By the end of 2025, at least 19 suspects had been charged in this large-scale case, ranging from ringleaders and foot soldiers to a bank insider and key facilitators such as fortune tellers. Authorities also managed to freeze around 75 million AUD in assets tied to the network, spanning supercars, properties, bank accounts, and other luxury items. We've previously covered Anya Phan's case in detail, and we'll include a link below if you'd like to hear more. Returning to the investigation, Bing Li was identified as the key ringleader of this entire fraud operation. He was born in Shanghai, China, and moved to Australia around the 2010s. Although he held a business degree, Bing Li did not have a stable job at any company. Instead, he often introduced himself as a successful investor and entrepreneur. In Australia, Bing Li lived with his girlfriend, Zhou Yao Chen. She was in her 30s, ethnically Chinese, arrived in Australia around the same time as Li, and had been with him for many years. Not only was she his partner, Chen also acted as a crucial assistant, actively helping run shell companies and putting her name on certain high-value assets. The fact that Zhou Yao Chen was charged with 11 counts, including fraud and participation in a criminal organization, showed she was not innocent at all. She was a key link in the network. After their arrests and during questioning, both Bing Li and Zhou Yao Chen initially denied wrongdoing and tried to evade responsibility. There were even reports that Bing Li told police he was a professional gambler to explain the suspicious source of his money. Besides Bing Li, another name that cannot be overlooked is Yi Zhe. This 34-year-old Australian citizen of Chinese background was seen as the organization's most capable second-in-command. Living under the cover of a successful businessman in Seaforth, Sydney, Yi Zhe was in fact behind a series of dark operations. The fact that Yi Zhe was charged with 107 counts, more than Bing Li, partly revealed how important his role was. Most likely, he was the one handling the technical side, arranging documents, and directly coordinating the massive network of operatives. Beyond the three leaders above, the case file also names many other individuals. These include Timosheus Sungkar, 36, a former National Australia Bank manager and the insider who was exposed, and Ibnu Pratama, 30, the owner of the Beauty Pavilion Spa, a suspect currently believed to be hiding overseas. The list continues with the married couple Nurkianto and Carliana, who fronted property purchases, as well as the fraudulent feng shui psychic Anya Fan, 53, her daughter Tita, 25, and many other operatives. All of them worked closely together to form a transnational criminal network, with Bing Li acting as the central connector linking the various branches. According to the case file, this fraud ring began taking shape around 2018. That was when Bing Li discovered and began exploiting loopholes in Australia's luxury car loan system. He gathered or bought real personal data, then combined it with forged documents to create composite identities. Thanks to loose approval procedures, Li, or someone he paid, would impersonate a customer and submit a loan application to purchase luxury cars worth hundreds of thousands of AUD. The moment the funds were paid out into an account LI controlled, the money was immediately withdrawn. Meanwhile, the collateral vehicle existed only on paper, leaving the bank unable to recover any asset at all. Not stopping there, Li and his girlfriend also set up several small companies in services and trade. However, these businesses were barely operational and even reported losses of hundreds of thousands of AUD between 2018 and 2023. In reality, they were merely fronts, created to legitimize part of the illegal proceeds and to build the perfect cover for their extravagant lifestyle. Moving into the 2019 to 2020 phase, Li recruited Yi Zhe and began forming a semi-structured organization. They lured people in financial trouble to act as borrowers, using their names, paying them a few $1,000s for each successful application. At the same time, Li recruited more people with specialized skills, hackers, document forgers, and brokers, forming a complete supply chain for the criminal operation. By the 2021 to 2022 period, when the Phantom Supercar scheme started raising red flags with auto finance companies, Bing Li did not stop. Instead, he shifted to targeting major banks directly. He bought long-established shell companies, altered financial statements to inflate profits, and then used those fake corporate profiles to apply for loans worth millions of AUD. Realizing that bank due diligence was not easy to fool, Li proactively sought to bribe Timosheus Sungkar, a mid-level manager at National Australia Bank. Tempted by generous kickbacks, Sungkar approved a series of high-value property and business loans, enabling the organization to withdraw funds quickly and move them through multiple accounts. To keep the fraud machine running, Bing Li used part of newly disbursed funds to pay interest or make minimum payments on older loans. This tactic made the credit files appear to be operating normally, helping them avoid triggering bank suspicion. It is estimated that during this period, dirty money circulating through their hands reached about 200 million AUD. On top of that, Bing Li also expanded his network into immigrant communities. He partnered with Anya Fan, a Vietnamese feng shui practitioner, to run a spiritual scam branch. The stolen money would be funneled back to Bing Li to manage first, and only then would a commission percentage be paid back to Anya. Li's group also carried out many other sophisticated tactics. For example, internal property flipping to inflate prices artificially, creating fake equipment invoices to prove how loan funds would be used, and using a multi-ethnic workforce to broaden their reach and complicate the investigation. But no matter how sophisticated the methods were, these schemes ultimately could not outsmart law enforcement. Given the enormous scale and complexity of the case, the legal process is expected to continue for a long time. As of now, most suspects are still awaiting trial and must go through preliminary hearings in local court. Notably, all suspects have, for the time being, chosen to plead not guilty and wait for a full trial. With so many defendants and such complex charges, it is likely the case will be moved to the District Court or the Supreme Court of New South Wales for a consolidated trial in 2026. Meanwhile, prosecutors are actively gathering additional evidence and considering plea negotiations with some lower-level defendants, with the goal of using them as witnesses against the ringleaders. If convicted on the full body of evidence, the penalties for Bing Li and Yizha, he will certainly be severe. Even counting only charges for directing an organized criminal group and fraud-related offenses, each charge can carry a maximum penalty of roughly 10 to 15 years in prison. When dozens of charges are combined, the theoretical total can reach hundreds of years. In practice, however, the court may run sentences concurrently or impose a fixed term or even life imprisonment if the consequences are deemed exceptionally serious. As for Zhou Yao Chen, facing 11 charges means she could be sentenced to many years in prison, though likely less than the two ringleaders. Defendants such as Sung Kar with 19 charges and Anya Fan with 39 charges will also face severe penalties. This is seen as a necessary deterrent against those who exploit positions of trust to defraud the community. Although final sentences have not yet been handed down, the initial legal consequences are already very clear. Nearly 100 serious charges have been filed, dozens of properties and supercars have been seized for auction, and numerous bank accounts and personal assets have been frozen. This may be only a small portion of the total damage, because according to prosecutors, the total amount defrauded by this network could be as high as 250 million AUD. The public is eagerly awaiting the case to conclude with appropriate sentences, restoring confidence in the strict enforcement of the law. The phantom supercar fraud has caused a major shock across Australia. Headlines described it as a stain on the banking system, allowing fraud worth hundreds of millions to go undetected for years. The public has been stunned by the gang's audacity. They did not swindle just one bank, but many, going so far as to corrupt bank employees. This severely shook confidence in credit approval processes, forcing major banks to conduct sweeping reviews, tighten lending controls, and reassess their security measures. National Australia Bank, the institution hit hardest, also stated it would show zero tolerance for financial crime. It immediately dismissed employees implicated and pledged full cooperation with police to strengthen its systems. Bank leaders said they are ramping up cross-checking and improving integrity training for staff to ensure this costly lesson is never repeated. Notably, although nearly 20 suspects have been arrested so far, the case still appears far from over. Police say the investigation is continuing to expand, and more names will almost certainly be identified. That list may include financial specialists, lawyers, accountants, or property developers suspected of helping the criminal network operate so smoothly. So what do you think? Could there be another mastermind hiding behind Bing Li? Is it possible he is only one link in an even larger criminal network? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video useful, don't forget to like and subscribe to support us in bringing you more gripping cases. Goodbye, and see you again tomorrow at the usual time.